Welcome back to the DLC Book Club. Let's hit that music.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the by DLC.
Welcome back to the Book Club. Oh, it's your weekly time to boogie down and celebrate reading. Oh, we're excited. Thanks again to Emily Bashinsky for that amazing song. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. We have finished Gardens of the Moon, the first of the Malazan Books of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. We have been going through chunk by chunk, book by book. This is the first novel. In that novel, there are books, and we had been trying to do our discussion in compartmentalized into those books. But Mr. Erikson actually came in to our comments and suggested we do the last two books together. Mm-hmm. So who are we to argue? We did that. We had some other commenters agreeing that was a good idea. So here we are. I think it's going to be a lot to bite off. But first, we are going to do our traditional non-spoiler talk. So even if you're not reading along with us, you're not caught up to where we are, you can get something out of the discussion. And we have I should actually introduce us first. I'm Jeff Kanata, and this is Lana Bashinsky. Hi, Lana.
Hi, hello. I'm Lana Bashinsky.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just monologuing there.
No,
I apologize.
it makes sense. There's such an unbelievable amount of stuff that has happened in these last two books of the book. You know, Not only is Malazan a notoriously challenging book series, it's notoriously challenging just to discuss what section of the series we're talking about.
Yes.
So skip the intros. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. All right. So we're going to do our first bit is non-spoiler stuff. Not even talking about the novels that we're reading. We're just talking about the stuff that you want to talk about as posted on our Discord. Which evidently I've been posting a link that just doesn't work in the show notes. So well done, me. Yeah. But people have still found it. We have the 5x5 DLC Discord channel the channel on Discord. And in that we have our book club. And in that we have the Gardens of the Moon channel. And every week I post a prompt to tell us what you'd like us to discuss in our non-spoiler section. We got a couple of really good questions. Here is one that I'm curious about for you, Lana. Mm-hmm. It comes from... where is it? It comes from the real Jay Clark. The real Jay Clark asks, when you sit down to read, do you sit down with the idea of, I'm going to read for the next hour or some other time frame, or I'm going to read X amount of chapters? What do you do?
Reading this book has been very distinct. I guess I haven't sat down except for like the couple times where I'm like, oh, book club's tomorrow, and I haven't read at all. I guess I'm reading roughly 3 chapters. Usually my patterns are having a book or like the Kindle app on my phone or my Kindle with me, and I have 5 minutes. I will open the book for 5 minutes and I will just read for whatever amount of time. I think I most usually read before bed, which I definitely know like deadline. It's basically like trying to read until I will fall asleep, which could be 3 hours. It could be 15 minutes. I struggle with that. And so usually it's in the downtime areas where I basically just read for as long as my body will hold out or before my next meeting. What about you?
Well, I'm curious to dig into that a little bit because it sounds like you're able to just read a few pages and stop. If you've got a short window of time, it's not like I need to carve out reading hour or reading. I mean, before bed, do you go, well, I'm going to stay up for another half an hour, whatever it is, or are you able to just read in very short bursts like that?
I am. And I think that's one of the, I feel like getting like into reading or into rhythm, or like there is a nice thing about wanting to read until there's like a little page break, right? So that
Yeah.
you know exactly where you left off. But I feel like the human mind is so capable of like retaining information that even if I did just read a page or two, when I get back to that page or two, I'm not like, what's happening?
Right.
I do remember it. And so it's reading in those short bursts is not like probably the most satisfying way to read, like taking, I'm going to eat a burger over the next 2 days by taking one tiny bite at a time. Not the best way to eat a burger. It's nice to just eat the whole thing.
Right.
But when I'm really into a book, even just like, it's the same way as like playing a video game. Oh, I just want to play for like 5 minutes. Ooh, I did something cool. Okay, I gotta go. And
Yeah.
reading just a couple sentences or a couple pages, I'm like, oh yeah, it's so good. I still like it. And then I'm thinking about it all day. So I like having those little bites out of it whenever I can.
Yeah. I think I'm getting more like that. I can be like this with video games too, and it depends on the video game. But sometimes I'll be like, well, I only have 15 minutes. I can't play that because I want to get into it and spend a couple of hours doing that. And I feel like I can be that way with books too, where, I only have 15 minutes. I'm not going to get absorbed in that world and then have to stop.
Yeah.
I like losing the outside world for a little while and being completely enveloped in the words on the page. And sometimes doing that in a staccato, interrupted way is unsatisfying and frustrating to me. But I'm getting better at just reading a little bit here and there. I'll tell you, I'm very grateful to authors that provide off-ramps frequently.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that's really great about Gardens of the Moon is how often you'll have those scene shifts. Because, you know, some of the folks in our Discord were saying, oh, the chapters in Gardens of the Moon are very long. And they are. But within those chapters, I felt like there's so many easy stopping points. Having said that, I do think it rewards reading those shifts, those POV shifts back to back quickly, because oftentimes the scene will benefit from just moving from POV to POV, and you're still in it and you understand how it's all related to each other. But I love the fact that there was so many times where I'm like, well, I could just read another page and a half and there was another break point, you know.
Humans are so funny. It's like, I want to read until there's the gap.
Yeah.
It's like, just, you know, like you're so good at like recognizing patterns and like having that satisfying pattern or off ramp, as you said. It's like a psychological, like a weird psychological need. But
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like even people who sort of identify as slower readers, 15 minutes, I feel like you want the best way to make that 15 minutes feel like you are sitting and relaxing and you're just chilling for 15 minutes. Read a book. Scrolling Twitter, it'll go by so fast because you're like reading a bunch of garbage. Reading a book, it's like there's like more peace involved in just sitting and reading for 15 minutes. And I think you'll rip through way more than you think that you will if you took that time to read the book instead of some other activity.
I think that's very good advice. I totally agree. And I'm getting better at that, especially as, you know, Twitter has slowly died for me or been, you know, drowned in the tub or whatever
Just the
you want to call it.
Suffocating it in the night. Yes.
Yes. Because there's no reason why I should be able to, you know, I spend that 15 minutes scrolling and just getting angry at the world. I've been much better as I've paid less attention to social media and just been like, I could open my Kindle just as easily as turning on my phone. And yeah, you can get more out of it. But I am grateful because I do have that psychological impediment. I do have that thing of like, well, I need to finish the chapter at least. I need to get to a stopping point. And because I don't like opening the book or opening my Kindle and just seeing a big wall of text. I don't like the starting point to be like, where was I? I don't know.
Oh, see, sometimes I'll just go back a page until I recognize this sentence. I'll open it up and I'll be like immediately as soon as I read a sentence, like my eyes catch a sentence that they've caught before. And if it's not immediately on that page, sometimes I'll go back one page and I'll be like, oh, there it is. And then I'm back in it. So there's some amount of just like being fine with like the same way that you might like flip back and forth through a book, being, yeah, right, okay, I'm here. But maybe that's just, I have that familiarity because I do that with a physical book too.
No, that's great. I've done that more when I'll get to the point where I'm reading in bed and I realize that I'm falling asleep and I have not retained the last 2 paragraphs that I read. And I'm like, all right, I can't power through the next stopping point. I just got to go to sleep. And then, so the next time I start reading, I'll go back a couple pages and realize, oh, I didn't retain any of that sleepy time reading.
See, I'll do the thing where I will fall asleep and then my face will skip like 10 pages in some direction. And so when I open the Kindle, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Where I gotta find what's. Having a physical book. I used to never keep bookmarks anyway because I'd be like, yeah, I'm roughly halfway through it. I'm just gonna flip until I'd find a page I'd seen before. In retrospect, very strange. Just get a bookmark. But the Kindle is a lot harder to do that because I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't check the percentage. I have no idea how many times to tap on and in which direction.
Totally. Yeah, we should do that as another topic sometime. The physical book market, because I am one of those people that like I cringe when people fold the corners over. Oh, I hate it so much. Anyway, we can talk about that another time. Thank you, folks, for posting questions in our Discord. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, we got to dig into this crescendo, the finale, the end, the last 2 books in the novel Gardens of the Moon. So, ladies and gentlemen, officially, spoilers start now. We have so much to get into, Lana. I mean, I think we're going to wait at the end to do sort of our overall thoughts of the book as a complete piece, and maybe we'll break that out into its own video. But starting with
starting where? When did it even start? I was literally reading last night and I stopped and I just looked at my husband and went, I have no idea how we're going to talk about this.
I know. Yeah, the book, The City of Lights, what is it called? The book 6, I believe. I was like, yeah. This all makes sense. And then we get into the final book, which is the Fate.
The Fate.
And oh boy, a lot happens. So first, let's start this way because there's a lot of characters talking to each other. We don't have to summarize everything that happens starting at chapter 17. But I think one of the big ones is basically we have Rallick. In the last episode when we talked about the Gadgerby Hills book, I said that the ascendant character for me, the character that became one of my favorites, was Lorne. Like her stuff in that book was awesome. I feel like Rallick is that for me at the end of the book. Like Rallick became, oh, this guy's awesome. I love this character. And so he decides he's going to go and fulfill the plan that he and Murillo have been planning for a long time, which is he's going to, despite getting, before that, he's going to go kill Ocelot, his handler, because Ocelot has accepted a contract to kill Cole, his buddy.
And Cole is the guy from the mountaintop who had his leg sliced open, who had that great conversation with Paran, where they just were like, oh, you want honesty? I'll give you honesty. Yeah. I fell in love with a prostitute and she stole my money and my title.
Yeah. And so we get some scenes of Perrin bringing Cole into the city in a cart. A really cool moment where the guards are like, "Oh snap! I know that guy. That guy's awesome. I'll help you out." I thought that was cool. And then we have Rallick in a total Assassin's Creed moment, ascending the tower. Painstakingly ascending the tower quietly and looking for Ocelot, who's magically invisible.
Well, and even before that, so let's see, even like we go through these details, but before that, Rallick covers his body with anti-magic powder because he knows Ocelot is going to have like wards and stuff and invisibility things and magic sensing things that will make Rallick too easy to detect and he'll never stop him in time. Yeah. So you have like this sort of very cinematic back and forth of Parant and like trying to hold Cole on this horse as he's like passing out because of all of this blood loss, and then cutting to like Rallick like like trying to get prepared, knowing that this assassin is out there and trying to figure out where he is, and sort of cuts back and forth between the two scenes of assassins doing assassiny stuff to Perrin being like, this guy dying, bro. And so Rallick's covered in anti-magic powder.
Yeah.
That he put directly on his skin, despite being told, we don't know what this will do to you.
Don't cross the streams. Don't cross the streams.
And so he finds and sneaks up on Ocelot because of the anti-magic powder.
Yeah, I love this Otaterol. That is one of my favorite concepts in the whole novel. Is Otaterol is this? They mine it in the certain part of the world. They mine this stuff that happens to deaden magic, and people make a sword out of it. Awesome. That would be very useful, an anti-magic sword. But they also grind it into dust and sprinkle it on things that you don't want magic to mess with. Very cool concept. I've never seen anything quite like that before in fantasy. And I love the idea of like, well, hey, spray that, put this on anything you don't want magic to mess with. But like skin, not so much, not so good. And Relics like all up on the skin everywhere. It says it will be unpredictable what happens. I was a little bummed that we didn't get some weird
immediate reaction
side effect thing that happened. Yeah.
Yet, I imagine.
Coming.
I guess that's a prediction.
I think my interpretation is he has become a superhero. He has become an anti-magic superhero. Like he was bitten by the radioactive spider. In this case, he rubbed the anti-magic stuff all over his body and lucked out that he didn't die. But what happened was he became, anti-magic man. Yeah. And now he's got his body is basically the sword, the Otaterol sword, which I think is a rad. If that carries forward, in the series, I think that is a rad feature for that character. Anyway, but yeah, I thought that fight was cool. Where he shoots the magically imbued bolt, and that's how you see that the dust worked, that the bolt doesn't hit him, and
it then vaporizes. Oh, so cool!
So cool. All that stuff was super cool, and the fact he has to kill Ocelot and how he does it, and how he like the moment where Ocelot grabs his braid and he's like, "I'll cut my own braid off. I don't care." I mean, I feel like Rallick, throughout this entire sequence and throughout the end of the book, is so focused on helping his friend Cole that he sets aside his own personal safety. I mean, he rubs the stuff on his body. He's I'm gonna die, but I'm gonna get this done. I don't care how I do it. I'm just gonna get it done.
Yeah,
and that
especially
made him
because
awesome.
especially because the whole thing is like the culmination of this plan that him and Murillo have done on behalf of Cole. It's almost like, well, you can't. It's tomorrow.
Yeah,
you cannot possibly die. It's like so soon. I'm coming to get you.
Yeah,
you're getting your stuff back, Cole.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I like how Maria's like, well, I guess I'll have to duel the councilman, and Relic's like, I mean, he's like, no, your job is to get funky with the ladies. You're gonna die if you try that.
Everything will fail immediately if that's what you think is gonna happen.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we have our buddy Crocus, our favorite friend Crocus, and Apsalar, basically being hidden by all of the eel's people. And they are, everybody's hunting Crocus. Everybody wants Crocus dead. And he and Apsalar are completely oblivious, just, doing their thing. Him like being annoyed by her. Tell me about your feelings on that stuff.
Oh man, the stuff with Crocus and Apsalar, formerly sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry, not sorry, as they say.
Sorry, not sorry. Is still continues to be like my favorite little moments of like all the kids are at it again.
Yeah.
So everybody's trying to protect the coin bearer. He gets put sort of in a room with Sorry in the Phoenix Inn. I think they're at the inn for their protection, and both of them are like, does this feel bad? But then like, this feels bad. They're like, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we know that there's an assassin who's been hunting them, Surat, who's waiting on the roof. and Surratt like has invisibility all over, and it's literally like watching Crocus on the like peek his head out the window, like I think it's safe, and like you idiot, now's my time, and
Yeah.
then mysterious forces keep preventing this assassin from executing the world's most oblivious teenager.
So one of my complaints with sort of this end section is that I feel like there are a number of characters that show up and are super important all of a sudden, whereas we've been building a bunch of characters up and we've been staying with them, and I'm so invested in all their stories. And then at the end, there's a bunch of new characters that I'm like, why haven't we seeded this person earlier in the novel? You know, I feel one of those is Surratt, and maybe I've just missed it or misremembering. There are a lot of characters, but I feel like maybe you can help me remember. Surratt is a Tisti, which makes me think that she is aligned with Anamander Rake because he's sort of like where all the Tisti hang out, but she's not, right?
See, I will say I was confused by where her allegiances
Right.
are.
Why? Right.
But
me too.
I do believe that she was seated earlier in the book in the sort of like assassin fight when Crocus became the coin bearer.
Yes.
I don't know if she was named then, but she was the assassin chasing Crocus back then. If I'm not mistaken.
That is, yes, I understood that to be the case, but I thought those Tisti were like descending from Moonspawn, and therefore part of Anamander Rake's crew. But they're actively because Anamander doesn't want the coin bearer dead, right?
Because they face each other later.
Yeah, right.
They're like he's like literally point blank with Crocus, and he's like, "Get out of here, little guy."
Yeah. So I don't understand. I never really understood where Surratt, what faction she is working for, and why she so desperately wants the coin bearer. In fact, I mean, this is kind of skipping ahead, perhaps, but I was a little disappointed that there wasn't a bigger payoff as to what Opon wanted of this kid. Like, I expected. There's such a buildup of the coin bearer, and everybody's like, got to kill the coin bearer or got to protect the coin bearer. It's super important because obviously Opon gave the coin to the coin bearer, so it's super important. And I felt like, well, in that case, there's definitely going to be something that Crocus does that tilts the events in some way. That he is this lever, a hinge upon which things are affected. And so Opon is like, I'm putting my thumb on the scale here to make something happen. And the only thing, and again, skipping ahead, but the only thing that I feel like happens is that Crocus saves Baruch's life, right? But I didn't feel like Opon particularly cared about that. I know Opon's whole impetus is like chaos in the game and making things happen, but it felt a little unsatisfying from my perspective. What did you think?
I felt like the whole time with the coin bearer, people were like genuinely upset that it was such a direct influence from a god.
Right.
And so it doesn't necessarily matter that it was Opon, other than the fact that Opon, I mean, the gesture imagery to me was chaos. And like the deck, I forget the name of the deck of dragons, when they pull early on, Tattersail pulls something for Hairlock, and it finishes on the card that represents Opon or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, "That's insane. Why would you do that? You never know where the cards are going to fall when that happens." And so I think that Crocus was just sort of a manifestation of chaos and the possibility of like, yeah, it could be either into this coin and we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
If he's lucky, everybody else around him is not lucky, possibly. We don't know what Opon's influence is going to be because they're a jester, because they're chaotic, and therefore we just resent the fact that there is direct godly influence. Get this kid out of here. For whatever reason Opon wanted this kid, he must die because it puts everybody else in massive danger, and whatever anybody else's plans are could possibly fail. That was my interpretation of it.
No, I think that's accurate in the sense that I think from the human's perspective, the mortal's perspective, they're just mad that the gods are messing with their business
Their
at all.
stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're just angry that the
But like,
gods would.
what from Opon's perspective was the purpose?
Yeah. Why Crocus? What about this kid made Opon want to choose him as a tool? That's what I don't understand.
And I guess because like the thing that, I mean, Crocus did end up kind of like swirling around a lot of these people and was like a connection between a lot of them. So even though he wasn't the crux of any individual moment, there he was like a tenuous tie between all of these different groups and in all the different ways. And so what I imagine Opon having what I imagine sort of the result of Opon sort of saving Crocus the night that he became the coin bearer, it just immediately put a wrench in somebody's plans to not be identified that they're even in the city. Like Surratt, the Tisty Andy having like killing other assassins on the rooftops would not have been known. Like, I think Rake's presence at all would not have been known by anybody if Crocus had not escaped that night. And I think that is maybe the start of it all, is that wrench thrown in that works.
So from Opon's perspective, they just want to turn the chaos, turn the conflict to 11. They just want to amp up everybody's, because they love the game. They want to see as much discord as possible among all the clashing factions.
Yeah,
I'll buy that, but I feel like I just wanted there to be this reason that Crocus was chosen. I felt like I was kept anticipating that. I was excited to see how Crocus was going to be some key player in some big moment, and like, oh, that's Opon anticipated all of this, like put all the chess pieces in place to get to this one moment where Crocus does something. And I felt like the only thing that resembled that at all was throwing the bricks and saving Baruch's life, which didn't feel as monumental as perhaps it could have from my perspective.
And I guess maybe like Opon wants to get at Shadowthrone in some way, because like the bigger thing that I felt was when Opon straight up appears to Paran being like, "You gave our sword away."
yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, and I gave it to somebody who's gonna mess you up." And they were like, "That's bad." And then they leave, like they basically immediately peace out. But like it seems so petulant of being like, "Hey, that was ours, and now you screwed us."
Yeah. One of the things I like about this universe is that the gods are not omnipotent. They're not all knowing. They're very fallible. You know, it's very they're just immortal people, you know, messing
just
with
immortal
stuff.
a-holes.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. But I thought that was all cool where, you know, we had heard Paran get the advice of, you know, either destroy the sword when you're done, when your luck changes, destroy the sword or give it to your worst enemy. And he almost destroys it. He sticks it in the table and he's going to snap it, but then he doesn't. And then he gives it to Cotillion, which was like, oh, that's cool, because Cotillion is your worst enemy.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. Okay, so lots of stuff going on with the bridge burners and Whiskey Jack. I love, there's a, you know, that Google Doc I've been linking in our description that I used. They talk about the method that he uses to talk to Dujek as the bone phone.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
cute.
Cool. Yeah. There's like an, or like a, I don't know, what's the word? A decomposing bone, arm bone that they just like use as a way to communicate. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I liked it because it like my brain was so video gamey, where they're like, okay, slam it into the table, and he's like, here's all the stuff I know. It's like kind of like exposition, almost like a hint. He's like, what else don't I know? And it was like, oh right, he knows all that, so I know all that.
Yeah.
What else don't you know? Let's hear it.
Yeah.
And
Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, both times they slammed the R into the table, and he's like, "I know all the things. What else? What else is new?"
Yeah. Yeah. That was cool. So a lot of, as we were told, a lot of this stuff is build up. Crocus is like, I'm gonna confront Chalice. I'm gonna find out why she betrayed me, because everybody thinks I killed the I love the
guard.
dynamic of everybody thinks I killed the guard, but you totally killed the guard, except you don't remember it, so I'm not gonna mention it.
Yeah.
I love that. I thought that was great.
Mhm.
And everybody is getting ready for the fate.
The fate, the fete.
I think you can pronounce it fate. I used that same word in my D&D campaign to create Stranger's Fate, but I think fete is also acceptable.
Mhm.
You're closer to French speakers than I am in Canada, so I don't know. What else happens in our build up here? Is there anything else that I need to hit before we get to like the real meat of everything?
I do feel like that. While it is a lot happening, I do feel like the book, the second to last book, I forget
Yeah.
the actual number, book 7?
6, I think.
Book
yeah.
6. It definitely felt like build up, because I feel like all of my potent memories of the book that we just read all came in the last section. So
agreed. Yeah. The big thing is the fight with Ocelot in that section, which I thought was really cool.
Mhm.
And it really feels like the final book of the novel is happening on 2 levels, right? We have what I like to think of as sort of like the street level conflict, assassins, prostitutes, lost house, lost status for Cole, all that stuff, trying to get back the prestige of Cole, and that all happening. And then the sort of grand god level stuff, which is Animander Rake, the tyrant, all of that. So I love how everything is leading up to a party. It's just it's all going to happen at the party. And I could not have been more excited for the end of this book. I was so excited that it was all going to come to a head. It was all converging on this one moment, this big party. Anybody's going to be there. And
I think it said that as a line in the book.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And even it's a little goofy that Animander Rake is like, I'm going too, bro. I'm going to go. And in fact, I'm going to force you to tell everybody my real name.
And everybody's like, cool, dude.
Cool.
Have a drink.
Who's that 8-foot tall guy with I just imagined like, Kevin Nash or somebody from like a pro wrestler, just with a mask on, like walking through a party. It's like, who's that guy? Really funny.
Yeah. I think the last thing that happened in the last book before the party is that the Cole's, the Ocelot, the death, Rallick being stabbed, Cole being brought to the inn. I think that was the moment that a couple of the groups met actually for the first time, and were like, realized they're all kind of working together to help each other as like soldiers.
Yeah.
I think. Anyway.
Oh yeah. And the other big thing that happens in that book is that Lorne and Toole look for we're going to call it a finest?
I was saying finest.
Finest? Yeah, it's probably finest. Finest would have one N. Finest. The concept of the finest, I felt like I had it, and then as it continued, I was like, well, now I don't know what the hell that thing is.
The finest, I think, it was in the tomb with the jagged tyrant.
Yes.
And it is like where the people who imprisoned him in the first place stored all of his power.
Right. Yes.
That's what I got from it.
Totally. Yes. It can be any shape of anything. It happens to be an acorn in this case. They had a bit of that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade moment of like, which cup is the right cup?
Yes.
I thought that was kind of rad. And I get that it is this like we trapped you and we sucked all your energy and we put it in this repository, and it's super important for you to get it back, but we're going to keep it separate from you so that we have control over you. Where I don't get it, and again, this is later on, is that it also has sort of a embodiment. It becomes a thing that we have to fight. Also, the Finnist itself is like this ghostly apparitional thing that isn't the tyrant, but also has to be battled.
See, I thought that was like kind of something else even. And I was like, well, this came out of left field.
Yeah.
So as far as I can tell, so Lauren goes and her and Tool like go in the cave and they like grab the Finnist and like, wake up, buddy, and like kind of run out of there.
Yeah.
And get back to the party. Lauren's like, I have 2 more jobs to do. One, I have to get rid of the Finnist. But by get rid, she's like, it's an acorn, and she has some kind of magical capacity to sense it, which is how they found it in the first place.
Right.
She goes, I didn't need to plant this. So I think because the nature that it was put in an acorn, her and Tool mentioned, what a strange choice to put it in this acorn. So she goes to the gardens at Lady Simtal's and plants the Finnist.
Yes.
So I imagine because of its magical properties, it begins to grow into something that later all of our other sort of young heroes gather around. They're like, whatever that is seems bad. Don't touch it.
Yeah.
Then later,
go ahead.
And sort of maybe jumping the gun, the tyrant, he's like in a big battle. He possesses somebody else. And I want to say, I forget the actual word. So I should like write down all the words because I forget them. I just recognize them. It's called like an aghast or something. Or the avast, the ghostly apparition.
That A word. Yes. What is it? That is another sort of godly... oh gosh, you're right. I should have written it down too. I thought I had it. Oh, Azath or Azath. Yeah.
Azath. They mentioned that is a being that is drawn to intense power,
right,
and seeks to immediately destroy it. And it is like it was either part of the Finnist or manifest because of the Finnist and the power of the tyrant being there, and basically is like nope, and shuts the tyrant down.
Right.
As he's trying to murder everybody around him.
Yes. I mean, I don't even know how we're going to talk about this. There's so much. There's so much to talk about. Because you're right. Like it all leads to that. And I thought that was awesome. Like we know how that we're gonna. I will admit to the fact that I missed. For whatever reason, I missed the fact that she planted the acorn. It is I went back and looked. It's the beginning of chapter 22. It's a sentence. It's one sentence. Yeah. And it starts after she's already done it. It's like she wipes the dirt off of her hands and it says, an acorn, plant it. And then it goes into like, well, now what do I need to do? And the rest of the whole section from Lauren's perspective is her musing on other things. And I'm going to kill the coin bearer. And so I totally missed the fact that she planted the acorn. And so when the stuff started happening in the garden, I was like, what is this? What is happening? There's a stone. No, it's wood. Now it's a little house. I was completely baffled until later when it was like, there's a later part where, Lauren's like, well, I'm glad I planted that. I was like, oh, and then I went back and looked and realized, it told us that she had planted it, but it was a single sentence of like, she wiped the dirt off her hand. And I was like, oh, I missed it. And I felt so dumb. But I think part of that led to the end of the book feeling a little bit overwhelming to me or bewildering. Because as I said, I felt like there was kind of two big sections, two big things that are all converging at the end. The Rallick Murillo, we're going to get Cole's reputation back, get him, owning that property back, challenge the duel. All of that stuff was awesome. I was so into it. I loved how that all played out. I could see the party happening and all the different people and some people sneaking in and Whiskey Jack and the gang like pretending to be guards, and all of the geography of that was incredible. Marilia going up and seducing Lady Simtal one last time, and
even the reveal that like that, because you know that Lady Simtal is like, you know, gets around,
yeah,
and like at the end of the chapter, it's like or end of that little blurb of Lady Simtal being like, it seems quiet down there, and like her lover is like, it's gonna be loud up here, wink wink. And she's like, okay. And then it's like Marilio pulls her onto the bed. It's like, oh, that's his ploy.
Yeah,
To get
it's
a
all a
sexy
distraction.
time.
Yeah,
it's nice.
best distraction ever. Yeah, it's a cool plan, and how that, you know, how the challenge of the duel happens, you know, spilling the wine and then causing it to happen, and we're inside Councilman Orr's POV, and he's like, this is gonna be amazing, and I'm gonna get, and how he gets his second, and then Anamanda Rake is like, I'll be your second, as all of that was so incredible. I was like, this is an amazing crescendo. The way the duel is actually really fast and over quick, I thought was cool, because it could have been, you know, a I am not left-handed moment, you know, it could have been just a long sword fight across but it was so perfect, and it was this assassin moment, and how everybody reacts.
I was so ready for the duel to be like Councilman Orr being like, all right, you know, it's like on guard, and then the next like scene cut, and just like with the old Empire demon, it's like, and Councilman Orr was now a pile of goo. And Amanda's like, that was great. Great party, everybody.
Or like, cut to Orr like in chains pulling a giant wagon. Like, oh man. Yeah. I thought that all felt so satisfying. The buildup paid off in such an amazing way. And it really, if the book had ended right there, I would have been like, oh, incredible. And also the tyrant, like all of that is happening. The tyrant is out. We haven't even talked about that. The tyrant is out in the field fighting dragons. Incredible. Like that
like
was all.
rakes. They're like rakes people. And I loved, so the tyrant is out, and like you immediately see, like he doesn't even have his finished, what his actual power is. And as he's waking up, like the slow description of what he actually looks like, he smiles or something, and it's like, oh, his tusks crack his like old flesh. It's like, oh, he's got tusks. I didn't know that they were tusked people. And then he's like, oh yeah, he like flexes one hand and volcano erupts, like the power. And he describes that as like, oh, I'm not going to kill the goddess at the center of the earth. I could. Yeah. I'm just going to make her bleed a little bit. And then there's like a volcano eruption. And it's like, I guess there's a goddess in the middle of the earth. And like,
and that goddess's name is Burn. And we're in the 1,000-something year of Burn's sleep. So she's literally time is kept by how long that goddess has been sleeping. And he's like, I could wake her up, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I thought that was
so cool. Like him, like just like literally like flexing the muscles in his body, and just by waking up, immediate destruction. He sort of goes through how he became like the tyrant lord, and then immediately was torn down by people who banded together and sacrificed literally their whole people to destroy him. And he was like, I didn't think anybody would ever get along like that.
Yeah. Totally surprising that they could even get it together enough to defeat me.
And he escapes the tomb, and for the rest of the time at the party, everybody who is a mage at the party senses this happening, and everybody's like, there seems to be a pretty bad storm happening over there. And every mage is like, oh my gosh, something horrible. I think it's Quick Ben is like, look among the faces of the crowd, everybody wincing is a mage of some variety.
Yeah.
And so you see people in the party watching the duel happen, and just looming death is on the horizon.
What an amazing culmination of everything that has happened. Like having that, this party, this revelry, having, murder on the mind of people in the revelry, and also this looming doom coming for everyone. I thought all of that was spectacular, just incredibly well executed, orchestrated. But then I really feel, and maybe you disagree, but I really feel like the tyrant thing after this amazing battle against the dragons where he's literally spanking dragons because he's so incredible and forcing the red dragon to flee. And like, it just, he is that potent. I really felt like for some reason, the book or the novel decides to wrap him up, I think, very much too easily and quickly in a dream. I mean, last laugh on me. I've been every episode, I'm like, I don't like dreams. And then, Erikson's like, hey, we're going to kill the big bad in a dream. Ha ha ha. Take that, Jeff. I'm personalizing in a way I probably shouldn't. But anyway, I felt that was not particularly satisfying. And then it completely switches and like the big battle we get. What I want is the battle Anamanda Rake has with the demon to happen with the tyrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the demon is just like, oh, by the way, she also had a demon in a vial, just like before. But that last demon was no problem for him. But this one is going to be a problem for it. It just felt like, well, it's a hat on a hat. Like, what? We have the big buildup of the tyrant. That's who I want to see have the fight. But we do it with this other creature. I felt a little unsatisfying.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know how to feel about that. I wasn't unsatisfied necessarily, but I feel like that's mostly because I know there's 9 other books, and it kind of just like, oh yeah, these books will consistently not be
right
what I expect of them.
Yeah.
And while I agree, like, oh, I thought like the tyrant, oh, that's the big bad. That's going to be the big bad rest of the series, big bad baddie. And I didn't know what else to feel about it other than I felt like it was interesting that like this thing that was sought after is like the rumor in the hills, like referred to as a treasure, referred to as a tyrant, like this huge thing ends up being dispelled so quickly. And then it sort of just pointed me more towards there's more and there's bigger things than this. This thing that is like historically like this massive tyrant that destroyed an entire civilization just to take him down. He is no longer the main threat. And the intent of it being like the empress for the empire wanted to release him because she thought it would tear down Anamanda Rake. Anamanda Rake didn't even blink at him. He didn't have anything to do with him. He was above it. And so he wasn't too tired to fight this demon. To me, it was just like all of the Empress's plans thwarted. And Lauren, who was briefly like, well, yeah, Lauren, you're so cool. Just standing on ceremony right until the end of her life when she could have made a different choice and probably lived and had something more fulfilling. And to me, it was like, the other side of the coin of what could have been, not this massive battle that culminates, but nothing happened as people wanted it to happen. And there are bigger threats in the world than this ancient tyrant.
I think that's a really cool way to look at it. And it's a persuasive argument. I mean, we've been talking all the way through as we've been reading this novel, how in other fantasy series, there would be things like what Erikson does is introduce something and resolve it where it would be like multiple books in another fantasy, like all of Sari's transformation and redemption and all that stuff. And I think we're far from done with her, but I also think just what happened in this first novel would be drawn out in another author's hands, and he is much more confident to introduce something and resolve it fast. And there's something really exhilarating about that. But I just felt like in this case, it seemed like that we were introduced to a bunch of new things right at the end that I hadn't been anticipating. But there was stuff I was anticipating that had been built up over time. And I was like, oh, I'm really excited to see the culmination of that. And that stuff was like, nope, not a big deal. Here's the stuff that really is a big deal. And, another example of that to me was, what's her name? Darudan the witch, which like.
She's one of the other of that
cabal.
Baruch's cabal.
Yes. But plays an enormous role. Yeah, she's an awesome character. I like her a lot. I like how she talks, and I like she's very unique and memorable. But I feel like she just appears at the end of the book and plays a huge role.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, how come we didn't seed this character a little bit, or why aren't the characters that I'm already caring about playing that role here at the end? It just feels like it felt like right at the end, after all of the awesome Lady Simtal, Consulman Orr, Rallick, Murillo stuff, which all felt so perfectly paid off, that all of a sudden the book just goes, okay, here's a bunch of new stuff that you didn't know about, but is going to be a big deal right now. And it just felt like, oh, why didn't that play as satisfying to me as all the other stuff that had been built up?
Like knowing that, okay, they finally made they're all by the wooden thing that's growing, the acorn, the thinnest.
Yeah.
And they finally meet up with Vorkin, the assassin guild leader, and she
Yeah.
takes the contract, and you're like, oh, maybe the Empress succeeds.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
And then you know that they're targeting the cabal, Baruch's cabal, and not any councilmen or people like that, because they're irrelevant. And then the witch is like, she's basically introduced being like, oh, she's another cabal member.
Right.
She was never given a name, and she was only like, oh yeah, Baruch, and some of his cabal people were there too, and only identified in that way. Would that make more sense to you, or make her seem less impactful? Because I feel like because Erikson refers to her like she has a name versus just like identifying that she's part of the cabal, it makes her seem very important. Where it's like Baruch and like the other people who've been running this city, that they've kind of existed, and she just happened to get a name. And so for me, she just represented a cabal member to show, oh yeah, this is where the real power is. And so you meet her, and it's like, oh yeah, but Baruch's super powerful. That because of his influence and his alchemy. He's allied with this other person who's super powerful. She's a witch, and immediately they're starting to be assassinated. They can feel the other members of people they're connected to getting killed one by one in the night.
Yeah, I buy that, except that there's more to it than that, because I think isn't it Callum who literally dives and saves her twice? Like he dives.
I thought that was Ben.
Is it Quick Ben?
Yeah.
One of them saves her life twice. And that sequence is amazing, where Mallet, the grandpa, Crocus's uncle, grandpa,
Mammoth.
Mammoth. I said Mallet. Mammoth. Yeah. Mammoth. Mallet is the healer. He, the tyrant takes a different body, takes his body. That sequence is amazing, where he just like vaporizes all of those party goers. Mm-hmm. But it's because Callum or Quickben or one of them dives, and I think it's Callum dives and.
Well, it's Quickben because it talks about his warrens, right? And Quickben's the mage, so Quickben is talking. And then Quickben is like using his warrens to protect her, and then at the last minute he realizes one of their incendiary charges is going to go off, and he's trying to he really uses all 7 of his warrens, and people are like, 7 warrens? What the heck? This guy's crazy powerful. And the tyrant is still trying to break through, and he's like, I cannot last much longer. And then he realizes, I think, that the incendiary charges are going to go off. And in the second time where he dives to save whatever her name is, the witch, they both are fine. And there's this big crater where it was. And he's like, oh, you turned your warrens off. That's smart. You closed your warrens. That was smart. And she was like, not intentionally. I just gave out. And he was like, oh, well, it was smart anyways, because the charges were designed to go attack magic or something like that. And so they'd flow into where Warren is. And so because Mammoth, or the tyrant who's possessed Mammoth, was like, magic, all of the explosive force was centered on him, and basically tried to obliterate him. And then he was fine, but then the other thing was like, no, you're not, and came out and killed him. And that was the part where I was like, oh, a little being has come to help us.
Well, but my point with all that was that having that sequence is cool. The vaporizing of the people, diving and saving her at the last second. all of that I think I would have been cheering more if I knew who she was and cared about her, right?
Yeah.
Like if we had seeded her earlier in the novel, if I'd known who this person was, this witch that is clearly in a faction that I care about. You know, I care about Baruch's cabal. I care about the fact that he's the people that are actually running the city and all that stuff. I think that could have been a more triumphant, cooler moment. And then the two of them hiding together in the room and you know, you hear everybody dying outside and they're like, oh, they're coming for us. And then Crocus coming in and Baruch saving her with the antidote to the poison that only he has. All of that stuff would have been so much better if I
like, why do you care about this lady?
I mean, I get it. Like, I get that he cares about her, but she just feels like this very important character that just pops up at the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, which is sort of out of character for the whole novel, where everything seems to be orchestrated and planned, and the chess pieces are all moving. Okay, so we have a couple of big reveals that we haven't talked about. I mean, one of the other things is I was very shocked that Whiskey Jack and the gang are literally going to still blow up innocent people. Like, they're still cool with that.
Yeah.
When they realize that they're also going to get blown up, they're not so cool with it.
Yeah.
But that was like, oh, these are guys I like. That's not very cool of them to do, you know? And they're seriously, you know, they're going to go through with the fact that they want to murder all of the other people. It's a very interesting thing that Erikson does over and over in this book is you are rooting for people that are in direct opposition with one another, and everybody, you like everybody almost. And oftentimes they want to kill each other. It's very interesting, you know, like he doesn't take sides in a large sense. And then the big reveal is that Krupp, and we have been corrected. His name is pronounced Krupp. Krupp is the eel.
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
I thought it was great, honestly. Him being like, they're like, this is the master spy. And he's like, even like being introduced, this is our master spy. I forget who's being introduced to in that moment. And he's like, gross. Like he's like kind of disgusted by him. And because of like who he is and how he portrays himself, even being introduced, being like, this is the master, like amazing person who's capable of all these things and has this much power. People are like, sure, man. Like it just, he flies so much under the radar for being just like somewhat despicable and selfish guy constantly looking for sweets and treats,
right?
You know? So it makes so much sense that he'd be able to spy because people are like, that whelp? No way. Is sort of it like tracks for me. And then he has like these bursts. I loved him talking with Murillo, I think. And Murillo's like, I know you're the eel man. And he's like, what? Like, no.
Yeah. He's like,
and the guy's like,
these aren't the droids you're looking for.
Exactly. He has like this brief flicker of power, and even him handing like the envelope, being like, this came for you, random soldier, and like flouncing away, being like, you're retired. Here's everything I've set up for you. Get on this boat. Thank you for your service. It's like so professional and so put together, and there is such a power behind who he is and what he like. He's like secured lands and honorable titles for him in this other place. And you're like, crap? I feel like Arrested Development is like, him?
Yeah. Her? Yeah. Krupp is in my top 2 or 3 characters in the whole novel.
Yeah.
I just, every time he talks, I love how he uses language. How, you know, talking about himself in the third person, but how he's using all these flowery words and how he sort of subtly kind of digs at people and insults people. I loved him. I loved him throughout. Yeah. I think one of my favorite things in the whole novel is the journey of the circle breaker, which is, I think, really cool how we never get a name for that person. We never know their true identity. they're always anonymous, even in the very epilogue where it's like, oh, there's also this other person on the boat who nobody cares about and is quiet and nobody really even understands their name.
Yeah.
And it's him like going off to his freedom.
And
I loved all that.
And it just, again, I'm like, what Krupp? I'm like, does he get some kind of power from eating food and wine?
Oh, interesting.
Because he's constantly like, I feel like every time we talk to him, he's like, I do have a great thirst. And he's constantly talking about eating, but sometimes it's tied in such a way that I'm like, I can't tell if this is like his like character flaws that he just really loves it that much, or if it's actually driving him in some way. But like it has in this letter, get on this boat, do these things. And the circle breakers, he's doing what the eel asks of him. And so knowing that that's the boat that the eel asked him to get on, he must have known Crocus would be there. He must have known that it
was all set into play, machinations.
Like, who are you, Krupp? What's your deal,
and
bro?
Clearly the fact that Krupp's dream was the place where the tyrant was initially defeated.
Mm-hmm.
It is like, a couple of moments in the novel, they talk about Krupp having the talent, which is like, oh, I wonder I think we're going to find out more about what that is in subsequent books. But clearly he is a major power here, that nobody else can really do what he does. And his dreamscapes are, very powerful. But yeah, all that stuff, it feels like the Circle Breaker is the one truly noble character in the whole book, in the whole novel. It just is always doing the thing that he believes in, trying to save his city and be honorable, and actually gets away, actually gets something good out of it. I just was so satisfying how all that played out. That was really cool. And there's so much more stuff to talk about, because the end with the tree turning into a dead house, which the name of the second novel is The Dead House Gates. Clearly that's a big deal. Also, Kaladin Brood as people show up at the end, and they're like super awesome and powerful and just murder Lorne.
I cannot express how much I loved that. Surratt just constantly thwarted. Like the whole arc of Surratt is like, I'm elite Tistiandi assassin, cannot kill child with coin, but I will. And every single time she's like, and like pushed it away by mysterious forces. And she's like, not this time, baby, this time. And then she's thwarted again. And then finally she gets there. She's like, now's my time to shine. Or was that Lorne at the end? I can't.
Yeah, Lorne gets murdered by all of them. She's like, I'll do all this, and he's just slices and dices her, and she's like, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, but Surratt is the one who she's like about to try and get him, and then she's like, suddenly she feels a sharpness under her chin and below her left shoulder blade. That's like,
yeah.
Not this one.
So good.
And when finally, like, Lorne's getting pushed back by them, and Crocus is just kind of like, whoa, what the heck is happening behind me? Again, like, oblivious. And that guy comes out and he's like, what's up? We're here at Crimson Guard. I actually stopped and I was like, ooh! like stomping the book down and loudly was like, they're here, they so sneaky, no shiny buckles. I just love a
no shiny buckles.
Love a sneaky, powerful, sneak. And so it was very, very cool reveal that these people who have been protecting him have been the Crimson Guard the whole time, baby. They're here.
So rad. Yes, I completely agree. And this Panion Seer, which is clearly setting the stage for subsequent novels as well. There's like hints of like the Panion Seers coming. Dujak's like, this is bad, real bad. So I love how there's lots of seeds for future stuff that we're going to get.
Yeah.
Got me really excited.
Did we know that Kaladin Brood was a prince?
Isn't the prince, he's hanging with the prince.
He's
Prince
hanging with the prince.
Begins with a K.
Yeah. That's it.
I can't remember his name exactly.
Because they said like, regards from the prince or something like that. Was Kaladin a prince? I didn't remember, but
K something or other.
Yeah.
But I think that he is an ousted prince who's been leading these forces with Kaladin Brood at his side in the Seven Cities, I think. So cool. Anything else you want to bring up? Dude, so much happens at the end of the book. I mean, the way all that happens, where Rallick escapes into the woody house that grew out of the acorn hole.
Is he carrying Lauren's body with him? Yeah.
But he buries her at the very end, right? He says some words over her grave where he buried her, if I recall. I could be wrong.
The last I thought we saw of Rallick was he ran into the house with Lauren's body.
Yeah.
And then all the
in the house, yeah.
Tistiani are there being like, well, can't get in there.
Yeah. What did you think of Animator Rake turning into? I mean, we know he's a soul taken, which means he can shapeshift. But that was another one where I was like, I didn't need him to shapeshift into a dragon. I mean, it's cool, but like, he was cool enough. He didn't need to also be a dragon. I felt it was another of those, like, it was a hat on a hat, you know. But I don't know.
I agree. I feel like he just like looked down and saw whatever the spirit, the demon, had transformed into a dragon. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, you think your dragon's impressive?
I see your dragon, raise you a dragon."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just seems like maybe he identified that as like, oh, this is the best way to fight this thing, is to also be a dragon.
Yeah, and it was a cool fight, but it felt a little bit to me like the end of every Marvel movie where it's like, okay, you've been watching Humans, now it's just all CG. We're just gonna go a full CG fight. But I mean, it's still rad. I was just like, Animator Rake is cool enough. He's got this amazing sword, and the demon was cool enough with the battle axe that had two-sided battle axe. Like, just let that part of the fight was awesome, and how that all happened, crashing down as Crocus is trying to get into Baruch's house, and they crash through the wall. All of that was rad.
All of that was rad. I really liked the little character moment with like the two, what is it, Mallet and Fiddler or something like that.
Yeah.
And Callum is going and he sees them running the opposite direction. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like going to go tell them like, "Oh, we can't do the charges." And they're like, "We know." And he's like, "What? Where are you running? What's your problem?" And they're like,
from that.
And they're all like, "That's bad." And then they all just turn around like scoot on out of there. Yeah. Just a very like, I love those like little infusions of moments of silliness.
Yeah.
That feel silly to me in the midst of like serious tyrant. Blah. So
I think it's Fiddler and Hedge are the two saboteurs. And it's a little funny to me that like they have this entire plan to dig up the roads and plant the charges, and nobody has thought to investigate the fact that this city is literally built on a natural gas reserve. I guess you'd miss that if you're not from around here. But it's pretty funny. Yeah. And it's cool that I feel like they're going to be ongoing characters too, because Fiddler's on the boat at the end leaving.
How'd Crocus get on the boat? I guess he's just chasing down Absolar.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Because he's like, they took Absolar, and that's like his little thing. Like, they're taking her. And then he's with her.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I guess we found her. We found her. And she's fine.
Yeah. And that whole sequence with him getting to Chalice and she's like, I don't like you at all.
I don't like you.
He's like, yeah, it's cool. I met a thief. Never met one of those before, but
yeah. Like also, she's like, yeah, Daddy got his mage to look at the dead body, and all of us were really freaked out. So it's not you, and I'm not going to tell.
So we didn't ever find out who actually did pin the guard murder on him, right?
I don't think so. I thought
because he thinks she did it, but she didn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So we don't ever find out who did, right?
Yeah.
Man. Okay, so we're going to talk about our overall thoughts of the book in a second, but we got, our tradition is to pick out our favorite sentence. Mine's a little bit of a cheat because it's more than one sentence. But go ahead. I want to hear yours.
My favorite sentence this time was Crocus and Absolar are in the tower and they're looking down at the crazy party below them. And I thought like a beautiful like hint of what was to come. There was a taste of mania among the crowds below, as if they danced on the rim of desperation.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And by the way, that's another, I'm glad you brought that moment up, because that moment is where the novel gets its name from. Because Apslar talks about the gardens on the moon. And I wondered if you thought it's an appropriate title, because it very much is just it doesn't really reference anything that specifically happens in this novel.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of her talking about this magical place where we can all go and not have any problems anymore. You know, like there's underwater gardens on the moon, and someday we'll all get to go there. The chosen people will get to go there and hang out, and there'll be no worries and no problems.
Mm-hmm. Do I think it's an appropriate title? I think I honestly, I didn't register that happened until you just said it.
Yeah,
so
right?
I didn't even make that connection at all. I guess just in the constant turmoil and stress that people are experiencing in this book, I think it's like a nice. I'd have to think more about how I feel like it ties in. How do you feel
like
about
it's
that?
in true Malazan fashion? It's this obscure little thing that you might not even catch it, but once you do, you go, oh my gosh, that's kind of beautiful and amazing. Easily missed, it's this side little moment where one character toward the end of the book tells another character this little side story, and you realize, oh, what this whole novel is all of the Sturm und Drang of these clashing, warring peoples that are playing out this millennia long, the threads of all of this turmoil that's been seeded since the dawn of civilizations, that it's just chaos. And one character in one moment is like, there's this other place where things are nice. It's like, oh, that's the name of it's this dream of a place where things aren't. And the actual moon that's in the book is warring, and the battles happen and people are trying to take it over. But this one character that gets possessed by, an ally of the devil, basically, is like, there's a lovely little garden on the moon. I just thought it's kind of beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so that is an amazing sentence, and I'm glad you brought it up. I had a bunch of contenders for eloquent, beautiful, lyrical, but mine is also Crocus. And when he's with Chalice, and he's like, he goes, he stopped looking away. What did he want from her anyway? What do you want from me anyway? Chalice demanded. That moment, I just completely sat back and was like, that was amazing. He's like thinking, what do I want from you? And she's like, what do you want from me? It's so beautiful. I just thought that was a very, very cool moment.
One of the sentence I almost picked was right when he like kidnaps her, basically. And he's like, he drags her into the bushes. And he's like, what do I do now?
Yeah, I have no idea what comes next. Yeah. There's also an amazing sequence where Lauren is right after she plants the acorn, which I missed. She's like just musing on the fact of like, what do we do? We're all just idiots, and we're all just gonna die, and it's all meaningless. I thought that sequence was incredible too.
It's like another moment where I'm like, yeah, Lauren, just go do whatever. And she's like, no, Lauren's dead. She's really dead. And then she's like, time to kill the koi bear. And I was like, girl, wrong choice, girl. I know that's going to be bad for you.
Seriously, a beautifully tragic character who is swept up in this misplaced sense of duty and all that. Anyway, all right. Do you have time to do a little quick? You got to go.
I have to go in 10-ish minutes.
10-ish minutes. Okay, so 10-ish minutes. We are going to maybe we'll break this out into its own video. But now we have read, you and I, Lana Mashinsky, Jeff Kanata, you and I have read Gardens of the Moon from start to finish. What is your overall spoiler-free review? Would you recommend it? Who would you recommend it to, if you would? And, what are your overall thoughts of this as a book, as a standalone work and as the beginning of a longer journey.
There's so many pieces of what you just said. My overall review is, I almost feel like we need to generate some kind of like rating system.
That would be good. We should do that.
We can.
If only there were stars, or I don't know.
No, something. But it needs to be something more nuanced than that. Because even the use of stars, like my husband does like game reviews for himself, and the way he does stars, he's like 3 is I liked it,
right,
and 1 is it bad, and 5 is it's the best. You should definitely play it.
Right.
They're not like more ambiguous. Like each star means something very specific by way of recommendation level.
All right.
And I feel like
I used to
something like that.
Maybe it was before your time, but there was an old magazine called Game Pro where they used to have pictures of a person sitting in a chair or like slumped in a chair sleeping or standing on the chair going, ah!
Yeah.
And we could come up with our own version of that.
So I would definitely recommend it. I think that I mean, as with many things, I would almost always encourage people to not be daunted by other people's reviews, and you like always try something for yourself before letting anyone's opinion, because you never know what you're going to take to. I will say there's merit in some of the complexity in that there are many characters and many threads, but based upon what I have now heard about the rest of the series, like it only gets better. And so reading a book like this that I did enjoy so much, and there are definitely moments of going back and being like, you know, I missed this one sentence, and so now what does this mean? Let's flip back a couple pages. Anything that felt complex in a moment, I was easily able to put it together, having trust in Mr. Erikson, in that you will get the important pieces from this story if you just power through. And powering through does not feel like a slog. There's beautiful language. If you have to float in a little bit of ambiguity for the specifics of what's going on, many of the pieces come together so beautifully. And I'm so excited to see where this world goes. So if you're the type of person that likes to live in a fantasy world, likes to know about a fantasy world, and sort of mourns like the finishing of a book because you have to then leave and find another world to play around in, this seems like a great start to a great adventure. And so I would highly recommend picking up the book. Period.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think it is much less daunting than I thought it would be. I think it is first and foremost a rip-roaring yarn. I mean, it's an adventure tale. It's not just this complex, geopolitical. I kind of expected that to be the case, where it's, the word going into it was, it's continents and thousands of years of history and all this backstory and stuff. And yes, all of that is there, but at the heart, what it is, it's just a really great adventure story.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun. There are tons of characters to fall in love with. And as we've said, each episode I've been like, oh, I have a new favorite character in the book. And they're very distinct, fun. There's different layers, levels of stuff going on. And it really does all come together at the end in a very satisfying way. Mostly, I think for me, I was a little let down by the one aspect of the end that holds it back from being a complete home run for me. But also that's with a caveat of, in retrospect, as we get further into the series, maybe there'll be reasons for that. And I'll look at that in a different light. I fully anticipate that this book will seem different to me after reading subsequent books. But already I do think it is one of the most entertaining fantasy novels I've ever read. I highly recommend it to people. And I don't think people should be put off or daunted by any sense of perceived complexity or I think it is beautifully written. The language, as we've constantly sourced, is just exquisite. And like you said, when you're in those moments of kind of not knowing exactly how things relate, it does clarify as you keep going. It galvanizes, and you understand what's happening. I can't wait to read more as well. I think this universe is really fascinating. The history and the magic systems and all that stuff that you want out of a great fantasy novel are intact and really interesting. And at the heart of it are just really cool characters doing really cool things. And that's what I want. I want to be turning a page because I want to see what happens next. And this book delivers that in spades. So I highly recommend people trying Gardens of the Moon. And it really wasn't at all what I expected going in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We did it. We got through the first book of the Malazan Books of the Fallen, and we're going to keep on trucking. Next up is book 2, Dead House Gates, which I'm very excited to jump into. I know you're going to be going on your honeymoon, so I don't know how scheduling is going to work exactly. But we'll figure it out. Yeah. And we'll be right with you. I hope you stay with us as well and hang out in our Discord and talk about your journey through the book and other books that you would recommend and other reading experiences. And, you know, it's a book club. Come join us. Be part of it. Until next time.
Are we going to do recommendations?
Oh, yeah. Do your recommendation. I always forget. Why do I always forget that? What's your recommendation of another book, Lana?
My recommendation, if you like books spanning thousands of years and have many interesting characters intertwining, The Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu.
I want to read that so bad.
Is so fantastic. The first book is, I think it was the first... I'm going to probably get this wrong. I hope I don't get it wrong. The first Chinese author to win a Hugo Award. It's amazing. The first book is very good. The third book is world-shattering, mind-blowing, incredible. They only get better over time. So I highly recommend the whole series. The first one is The Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu.
Well, since we're at the end of this first novel and we're talking about big, expansive, mind-blowing series, I will do what I've often referred to as my favorite series. It is The Baroque Cycle by Neil Stevenson. 3 incredibly large books, just massive tomes. That is what's the first one called? The second is The Confusion, the third is System of the World. What's the first one? I can't remember. Quicksilver. Quicksilver is the first. And these are ostensibly kind of sequels to the Cryptonomicon, and I'd actually recommend reading the Cryptonomicon first. I also love that book. If you only know Neil Stevenson from Snow Crash or Diamond Age, read these. They are incredible. Historical fiction. The Cryptonomicon is set in present day and is amazing, but the Baroque Cycle is set. Isaac Newton is one of the main characters, and it's about the invention of currency, the concept of currency, but it's done in this amazing adventure. There's like pirates and hidden treasure, and it is so entertaining, so wild, so edge of your seat crazy, but also you'll learn stuff about history and how things came to be, specifically how we started using currency. And you see the genius of Sir Isaac Newton. It's an amazing work. So I highly recommend Baroque Cycle. All right, that's going to do it for this DLC Book Club. We'll see you next time. Hit that music.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with the